So what are we doing globally to reduce the burden of the HIV/AIDS epidemic? So this is just a chart which sort of shows the amount of money that the U.S. is spending on HIV/AIDS. So about half of our money, $14 billion, goes into care and treatment here in the United States. We spend money on research, on prevention. I would argue that we should probably spend more on prevention, particularly in communities like Washington, D.C. And we spend about $6 billion. I think it's a little bit more right now, maybe $7 or $8 billion globally. This is mainly through PEPFAR, but this is also through the Global Fund. And really one of the greatest successes in modern medicine is the development of effective antiretroviral therapy. And it's really stunning to me. I mean, I've been doing HIV research since 2000, and even I am surprised at the number of new drugs that have come on the market. And we continue to identify drugs for new targets, such as raltegravir, which is an integrase inhibitor. But we now have a really great toolkit of drugs to treat the virus. But the problem has really been getting people in the developing world access to those drugs. And this is something where I think we've made a lot of progress over the last few years, but we still have a long way to go. And, the arguments are always that, well, the cost of drugs are too high. I think this has really changed over the last 10 years, particularly from the work from the Clinton Foundation, really working with pharmaceutical companies, for example, in India and China, to really drive down the cost of manufacturing these drugs. So we can actually produce, I think you can give somebody in Africa antiretroviral therapy now for less than $100. So that's for a full year. So the cost of drugs, for not all of the drugs, but the cost of some of the main drugs have come down dramatically. There was this perception that, particularly in countries particularly African countries, that people would not adhere to the drug regimens. And I think that over time, a lot of research has been done, shown that that's not the case at all. That actually people, particularly the cohort that I work with in central Uganda, adherence rates are well over 90%. So I think it actually turns out that people in certainly sub-Saharan Africa are quite good at that. And so there's a lot of arguments, we shouldn't try to treat people. And for many, many, many years, the funding was at a very, very minimal level. And then, of course, George Bush, in one of his few, great moments, there weren't many of them in his administration, had the idea, or really was a driver behind PEPFAR. And I have to say that I think, this really was, George Bush really did take an interest in PEPFAR and really drove it. And that, of course, has led to this.
Could you give us a bit of background on what is PEPFAR?
Sure. So the PEPFAR is the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. And it was started, I want to say that it was started, around 2004. And it really started out as an emergency plan. And that was to try to get antiretroviral therapy out to as many people as possible as quickly as possible. And this was probably one of the largest U.S. development initiatives in history. And it has really begun to evolve. I will say that there now are about, I think in total about 3 million people on antiretroviral therapy. This is still way fewer than the number of people who actually are eligible who need antiretroviral therapy. But really, PEPFAR evolved as this sort of emergency plan, get drugs out to as many people as possible. It focused on 15 countries, 14 of them in sub-Saharan Africa, one of them over in Asia, Vietnam. And then there were many non-focused countries that were a smaller amount of funding. But I think now PEPFAR is really evolving into a more sustainable program. So there's a greater emphasis on prevention methods, on building primary health care facilities so that you can treat not just HIV, but these other infectious diseases that are often associated with HIV. And there's a lot of debate right now because it's, to sustain people on antiretroviral therapy over the course of their lives. If somebody starts at age 20, this is a significant cost for the United States and for other international donors to carry over the course of somebody's life. And President Obama has in many ways sort of shifted some resources towards treating things like neglected tropical diseases, in which you can give somebody a dose for several months, a dose of drug for several months, clear the parasitic infection, and then you're sort of finished with that person. HIV, of course, is really like a chronic disease. You have to keep treating this for many, many, many years. So I don't think at this time PEPFAR is enrolling anybody new on the antiretroviral therapy. I think that it's sort of been capped now at about 3 million people. And there still is, there are over 30 million people who are infected with HIV. And I'll show you a figure in a second. I think, in sub-Saharan Africa, you're getting less than 50% of the people who need antiretroviral therapy is actually getting antiretroviral therapy. And I can tell you, if you go into Malawi Hospital in downtown Kampala, which is the big sort of hospital in Uganda, there are people, just long, long lines. People with CD4 T-cell counts, which are, less than 100. People who really are in need of antiretroviral therapy who aren't able to get on antiretroviral therapy. And it looks like right now, and certainly given the global financial crisis, and, given sort of the donors, I think right now are a little bit hesitant to give money. It looks like right now that the opportunities for getting more people on the antiretroviral therapies is pretty low. But PEPFAR has really been, I worked for PEPFAR for a little bit. I actually served as the acting PEPFAR coordinator in Lesotho for about 6 months when I was at the State Department. And PEPFAR certainly is not a perfect program. And I think it has its flaws, but in general, it is, I think it's been a program that has been very successful in certain areas, and it continues to evolve. And if you ever have a chance to go abroad internationally, working for PEPFAR, I really liked working for PEPFAR. If any of you were thinking about a career move or doing something new in life, to go and work for CDC or USA and get involved in PEPFAR is actually for me a great experience.